Okay, we're going to do some simplifying of expressions. It's on the back of your test form A back. Okay, so like number 20, we have negative 4x quantity squared. So we're going to be looking at everything inside the parentheses, and then we're going to square everything. Okay, so we'll take one thing at a time. So we have negative 4 times negative 4, which is negative times a negative is positive. Then we have x here, x times x equals x squared. Okay, so we'll put those two things together and we have 16x squared as the answer. Okay, so we have to be really careful that when we're looking inside the parentheses, we're looking at if there's a positive or a negative sign here, and making sure if there is a negative sign that it's a negative times a negative is a positive. So if we change it up a little bit differently, still a similar problem to number 20, and we have something like a negative 3y cubed. So let's look at what that's going to look like. We're going to take negative 3, and we have negative 3, and how many of those do we have? We're cubing it, so we have 3 of those. So negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, and I'm carefully looking at my sign. I have 1, 2, 3 of an odd number of signs, so I know that it's negative. And if I don't remember that way, I can take each one individually and say, well, a negative 3 times a negative 3 is a positive 9, and then a positive 9 times a negative 3 is a negative 27. Okay, then I'm going to go and look at my y's, and I have 3, I'm cubing that, so I have y times y times y, which is y cubed. Okay, so I have a total answer of negative 27 y cubed. Okay, let's do number 21 on the back of test form A. We have 3m over 2n, and we have the quantity cubed. Okay, and again, because I have that parentheses over everything, I have to look at all of those parts. So this is 3 times 3 times 3, and m times m times m. So we have 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, and m times m times m is m cubed. Okay, in the bottom, again, I'm cubing everything on the bottom as well because that parenthesis extends down to the denominator. I have 2 times 2 times 2 times n times n times n. So I have 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. And then 3 n's multiplied together, n cubed. And that's my answer. So if we do something else, something like, say, a similar problem where we have 4 x all over 7y, and we'll have the quantity squared. And look at that, I'm going to say, well, 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16. X to the second power is x squared. Okay, and then 7 squared is 49, and y squared. Okay, and I'll leave it alone like that. Okay, let's also now look at number 22. We have negative here times the quantity x y squared, the whole thing cubed. So when we have a negative sign on the outside of the parentheses, we have to we're just going to leave this alone for right now. But sometimes if we're trying to be really careful, it's good to circle that we don't forget about the negative sign. But when we're actually cubing, since it's outside of the negative sign, we're going to leave that alone. We're going to wait until the very end and put it back into our problem, okay? So we're going to just look at what we've been doing, okay? So I have this quantity cubed, so I have x times x times x, and y squared times y squared times y squared, okay? So I have x cubed and y to the 6th. So if you forget that, here's our trick. We can just say, we really look at this as x to the first power, and we can say x to the 1 times 3, which is x cubed, and y squared cubed is 2 times 3 is 6. Those are our exponent rules. If you forget about those exponent rules, you can go the long way, like I did here at the beginning, and show that I have 3 x's here and 3 sets of y squareds, and I'm going to get the same answer. Okay, but I'm not quite done, because remember I circled that negative sign outside of parentheses. So now that I'm done with cubing everything, I need to put that negative sign back into my problem, and that's my answer. Okay, let's do another one like that. So we have a negative, let's have m squared n cubed quantity squared. Okay, now again, I have a negative sign outside the parentheses. I'm going to circle that, like come back to that, okay, and focus on what I need to do with squaring the quantity inside the parentheses. Okay, so I have my exponent rules. I have two of these squared, so I have 2 times 2 is 4, so m to the 4th. N cubed squared, 2 times 3 is 6, n to the 6th, and then I'm putting in that my negative sign now. I'm going to put it back in there, okay? So it's important if we're paying attention, because a negative times a negative is a positive, and if I put this parentheses in, or the negative sign in the parentheses, it's going to change my answer. So I have to be really careful that I'm only squaring what's in the parentheses and then going back with my negative sign.